does he have to do with this?
Let anything, you know what I'm talking about. Let anything. Nah, I don't have to say it right now. Don't worry about it. I don't got to say it up here. Let anything happen. And I'm going to show you and him. Bet.
In shape, 145.
Yeah.
In shape. You know what I mean? So this is different from a Crawford coming up to 168, but we know his walk around weight is probably 170, 180.
The fight that I couldn't believe, that was too insane and honestly just baffling to think would be a real fight in 2025, reminds you that combat sports are the craziest sports on the planet.
Chaos erupted at the press conference for the Gervonta Davis versus Jake Paul fight, turning what was meant to be simple promotion into a heated confrontation. Davis lost his temper when asked why he chose to fight Paul instead of higher-ranked opponents. Meanwhile, Paul attacked Davis over his personal issues and mocked his background, pushing things so far that officials had to step in to calm the situation.
Box, and truly when people run back this press conference, all the shit talk, all the fun, they're going to be like, wow, this kid really is doing something monumental in the sport, and he's actually an insane boxer, and I'm going to show that this guy who's been doing it his whole life has been doing it wrong his whole life.
What'd you say, Tank?
He said he gonna outbox me. Whoop-de-doo.
The one thing, when you have a fight of this magnitude, especially with Jake, because his appeal has been global, for you, Tank, do you think this is one of those fights where now all of a sudden you can show your boxing skills on a global scale to maybe people who weren't interested in boxing? All of a sudden they say, well, who is this guy?
Yeah, it's actually like, you know, now that I'm looking at it now, it's just like, I don't know, probably.
From the start, the exchange was anything but friendly. Paul, standing 6'1", towered over Davis at 5'5", a clear picture of the size difference that's been a major topic in the lead up. Paul used this gap to his advantage, bragging that his reach and size would keep Davis away. Davis, a lightweight champion used to shorter opponents, fired back confidently, saying his speed would make the size difference meaningless once the fight began. One of the biggest talking points is the huge size difference between them. Many media outlets and fans have called the matchup unfair or even a joke before it happens. Davis, an undefeated lightweight champion, is facing a social media star who naturally fights at much heavier weights. The fight is labeled an exhibition rather than a pro title bout, which adds to questions about its legitimacy.
Fight. But yeah, that was that. This time, Jake Paul is to take on Tank Davis. He was recently in the news for being arrested for a domestic violence incident involving one of his kids' mother. He was alleged to have slapped her about the place. The charges were later dropped, to be fair to him. But yeah, that was when he was last in the news. I mean, what is interesting is just a couple of months ago, Tank Davis was saying openly that he'd lost his passion for boxing and that he wanted time away from the sport. There was speculation that he might even retire, as he was experiencing extreme mental fatigue from boxing, depression, and there were mental health concerns over him. However, I guess the opportunity to earn a truck full of money, fighting a completely worthless exhibition fight against Jake Paul was enough to make him change his mind about boxing. Funny that, isn't it? But you know what? I'm not even going to waste your time or mine critiquing this utter nonsense. Suffice to say that this so-called fight we're talking about is an exhibition, and it pits Jake Paul, who is a cruiserweight, by the way, weighs in excess of 200 pounds, and Tank Davis, who is, he was the WBA lightweight champion, who weighs in at about 135 pounds when he fights. So that's a disparity of some 65 pounds. In old money, that's about 4.5 stone. There's also a significant difference in height. Jake Paul is roughly, 6'1", 2. Gervonta Davis is 5'5" at best. So, there's a height disparity there of some 8 inches. And once again, this is Jake Paul showing total disrespect to boxing, in my opinion. Once again, continued to pimp out the sport for his own financial ends. And worse still, the powers that be in boxing allowing him to get away with it and facilitating this utter bullshit. And meanwhile, what's even worse about this is that meanwhile, the WBA lightweight title that Tank Davis should be defending against Lamont Roach in a rematch.
Jake Paul is known for drama and showmanship, and this press conference was designed for viral moments. From clown jokes to shoving and legal insults, everything added up to chaos. It felt more like a reality TV argument than a real boxing event. Reporters described the scene as loud and messy, filled with noise and hype, but offering little real substance.
Jake will kind of bounce in between doing these entertainment fights and then, trying to push toward his goal of ingraining himself in the sport of boxing, and kind of does both of them. So it's kind of a weird place to be, because he wants the respect of the boxing fans and the boxing hierarchy and hardcore boxing people, but at the same time, he'll gain some of that and then lose some of it. It's like a seesaw of his fights. Like one fight, and be like, okay, that's a real fight, or that's a real fighter. And he'll go and he'll win the fight. Julio Cesar Chavez, real fighter, maybe past his prime, whatever, but Jake goes and wins that fight pretty easily, and then gets a lot of respect, gets a lot of the boxing hardcore love. And you have these talks about him fighting Anthony Joshua, and that was going to get even more respect. More people were like, that's fucking crazy. What are you doing? Myself included. That seemed like a massive risk, but a lot of people were like, okay, fair play. Anthony Joshua, that's a real heavyweight. Jake wants to fight him. He's a psycho, but fair play. And then you announce this one, and it's like, well, that's the same thing people have been saying about Jake for years, so it's a weird spot to be in for him for sure. But I talked about this not being the first choice, and I don't think it was, because Coppinger reports next that talks for Jake Paul to face Anthony Joshua collapsed over network issues. Now, we had all heard the talks, and they were pretty public, from Eddie Hearn, from Jake. Nakisa Badarian, Jake's manager, was over in the UK on, I think, Sky Sports, talking about the fight and saying how it was a real possibility.
Keith Thurman pointed out an irony. Critics of Gervonta Davis actually help him. He said the same people who insult Davis's fights never miss watching them. They claim he's overrated, but their attention boosts his fame. Thurman believes their complaints only make Davis more popular. The more they try to bring him down, the more his name spreads, turning his haters into accidental supporters.
With Tank, first off, don't watch Tank. Don't do it. You know what I'm saying? You support it, then what you doing? You can't not support and support at the same time, right? So if you're a boxing purist, then this fight with Roach is really more for you. It's going to be more up your alley, If you just like all entertainment, all fights, all hypes, all everything, then you're going to want to tune in to the Tank and Paul show there, because that's all for entertainment. What is it? For entertainment purposes only, right? It's just say like somewhere in the small print of the promotion. For entertainment, don't do this at home, kids. So fine.
Disclaimer.
Yeah, disclaimer. For entertainment purposes only, So, it's money-making purposes only.
Stephen A. Smith strongly criticized the rise of these exhibition fights, like Jake Paul versus Mike Tyson, calling them mismatched and disappointing. He said Paul should fight real boxers, not retired athletes or celebrities. Still, Smith admitted Paul's ability to attract attention helps the sport's visibility. After the controversial draw between Davis and Lamont Roach in March, Smith praised Davis's professionalism, saying he showed true champion spirit by staying calm under pressure and agreeing to a rematch right away.
Is a professional. At some point in time, I don't give a damn if it's a light heavyweight. Better BF, Bivol, a super middleweight, Canelo, Mexican Monster, David Benavidez, somebody that actually has a reputation. The time has come for Jake Paul to step into the ring with a cat who actually boxes for a living and give us that fight. I appreciate the fact of him promoting. I appreciate him having the cachet as a former YouTuber turned boxer. I like Jake Paul. I respect Jake Paul. I'm just saying, because I like him and because I respect him, I want to see him in the ring. And I don't want to hear, I know his numbers are better, but then he's going to say, I don't need Canelo. Canelo needs me. Well, wait a minute. It ain't just...
Smith went further, ranking Davis among the top 3 boxers in the world for his skill, power, and knockout ability. He said Tank is a real champion, while Jake Paul is still a YouTuber learning the sport. For such an experienced fighter like Davis to face a beginner, Smith argued, could hurt his reputation. He called the matchup unworthy of Tank's level and said Davis should feel embarrassed for agreeing to it.
This is one of the top 5 fighters on the planet. He might be top 3. Yeah. You can make a legitimate argument for him being 3, 1, or whatever. Frank Martin, props to him, came into the fight 18-0, 12 knockouts. Clearly did not have the power to keep Gervonta Davis from stalking him from opening tap. That's what he did. He stalked him and stalked him and stalked him, okay? Frank Martin caught him with some good shots. Gervonta Davis kept coming. So he can punch. He's a knockout artist. He can box. He's not given enough credit for it, okay? He closes. He finishes. Once he smells blood, he's like a shark in blood-infested waters, Molly. He will...
Rolando Romero sees the Paul versus Davis fight on Netflix as a major draw for young American audiences. He believes while Canelo versus Crawford appeals to Mexican and Latin American fans, Davis versus Paul will grab the younger U.S. crowd, especially those under 20. Romero thinks both fights help grow boxing's popularity, which is good for the sport. He admits Canelo versus Crawford is better in pure boxing terms, but says Paul versus Davis will be bigger in overall viewership.
Who will win in this fight? Jake Paul or Tank Davis? It's a legit question. And I actually want to really hear your thoughts on who do you think is going to win. Because I know what Vegas is saying, but I want to know what you think. You got
Personally, I think Tank too little, bro.
Yo,
I think Tank too little.
I'm so glad you have a brain on your fucking shoulder.
I think Tank too little.
I said, bro.
I think Tank's too little. That's what I'm saying. That weight class is for a reason.
Davis
that weight class is for a reason.
5'5", 135 pounds. Jake Paul is 6 feet, 205 pounds.
That's what I'm saying.
Dog.
He's too
6'1",
little.
205. Everybody's like, yeah, bro, but Tank it only takes one good punch. Yes, it takes one good punch when you're about the same size. There's a 60, 70-pound difference in weight in these people. I don't think nobody puts the physics in mind. Jake Paul gets punched in the face by dudes 200 pounds with all their might on a weekly basis. A 135-pound puncher, bro. If y'all remember the Mayweather versus Conor McGregor fight, Conor walks around like 180 on the regular. He's like 5'9", 180. Mayweather's like 5'7", 145. That 30-pound, 20, 30-pound difference, bro, if you remember that fight, Mayweather was putting mittens on Conor. Guess what happened to Conor? He didn't hit the ground once.
No.
He lasted all 12 rounds getting hit with flurries. I'm talking about Mayweather was having his time. He's being cocky with it, hitting him with all kind of combos. And we're watching the last 3 rounds of that shit like, yo, knock him out. And you know what? He could not knock him out because Conor gets punched by people that are 170, 180 pounds on a regular. And just that 20, 30-pound difference, it was like impossible for him to do anything. And that's exactly what
WBC lightweight champion Shocker Stevenson gave a direct warning to Davis over his exhibition with Jake Paul. Stevenson said Davis was disrespecting boxing by choosing this kind of fight and should face real contenders instead, confident in his own ability. Stevenson challenged Davis to fight him if he truly wants to prove he's the best in the division.
Tank, what do you think about the rumors of Tank and Jake fight?
Man, Tank disrespectful to the sport if he choose that over fighting with me. I'm the best fighter in the sport. I've been telling him that. He called cap on it. So if you want to call cap and say I'm not who I say I am.
Former heavyweight Eddie Chambers also warned Jake Paul ahead of his fight with Gervonta Davis, saying Paul has never faced a fighter like this before. Chambers explained that Davis combines speed, power, and intelligence, things Paul hasn't dealt with in past opponents. Most of Paul's wins came against older or less skilled fighters, but Davis is a completely different challenge. Chambers said Paul must raise his level drastically or risk being exposed by Davis's elite skills under pressure.
Something like this can happen, but this is social media. This is what it's created. There's a lane that Jake Paul has created. Honestly, I'm not mad at him for it. He's gotten a lot of fighters and, you know, actual fighters some shine. It also has done for women's boxing a lot. So I'm not mad at him for what he's been in boxing and what he's created. This is a little crazy right here. This is a little crazy. And a lot of people will say, Tank is too small. Let me tell you something. Anybody that gets in the ring with Tank that is not a damn dinosaur is going to feel something from it. And it ain't going to be easy to hit it. Got boxing IQ. He may not sound like an intellectual guy when you hear him talk, but he knows the ring inside and out. So there's nothing that Jake Paul can do aside from make it extremely ugly by grabbing him and probably trying to throw him to the ground. I don't know what else, bite him. I don't know, but I mean, the skill level alone. Now, of course, there is a size difference, a height difference, and all that, but he's just going to struggle so much landing a shot. You know, it's just going to look bad. To me, this is the way I see it. It's going to look bad. Tank is going to be too fast. And the punch, I believe.
The upcoming clash between Jake Paul and Gervonta Davis has drawn strong criticism from boxing experts who say it's more show than sport. Many claim it's all about money and social media clicks instead of real competition. They call it a flashy, greedy sideshow that sacrifices boxing's values of skill, honor, and legacy for fame and profit. To them, this fight shows how far the sport has drifted from its proud and serious roots.
Fan of this matchup at all. You got Gervonta Davis, who's been eating county jail spreads for the last month and a half, and he didn't look good in his last fight against Roach, where he had a draw, but most people felt like he got his ass tapped, so he needs the money. Then you got Jake Paul, who gets to beat on a nigga a whole foot shorter than him and 100 pounds lighter than him. And I think this is just nasty work. This screams money grab. And then you know what? The fans lose in the end on this one. Netflix wins, Jake Paul wins, and Tank wins. We lose.
Promoter Eddie Hearn gave one of the harshest takes on the fight, saying it blurs the line between sport and entertainment. He warned that when boxing focuses more on spectacle than real competition, it loses its identity. Hearn said this fight is not about skill, but about money and online attention. Many critics agree, calling the matchup unfair since Paul fights near to 100 pounds while Davis competes at 135 pounds. A huge gap that some call weight bullying. They say it makes the fight look like a circus act. Still, others defend Davis, saying he's chasing financial freedom and isn't pretending this fight is about legacy.
Shouldn't he?
No, he shouldn't.
But you don't think? Sorry. So, I thought we were all unanimous here. Do you think that Jake Paul beats Gervonta Davis?
70 pounds is 70 pounds. Gervonta Davis is very small. 5'5".
He's tiny, bro.
That's what I'm saying. Jake Paul,
he's a little man.
If Jake Paul's tucking up,
move on,
and absorbing punishment for walking forward,